grade. Today we're going to be reading Lunch Money, Chapter 19. You should be on page 177. This chapter is called Planning. On Tuesday morning, Mr. Z sat in his room, secretly hoping that Greg and Maura wouldn't show up, hoping something might have derailed their plan, like maybe a big no from somebody's mom or dad, or maybe a sudden outbreak of common sense, or even a flat tire in a school bus, something, anything. But at exactly 7:30, Maura walked into the math room and said, "Hi, Mr. Z." She sat at a desk and began digging around in her backpack. She pulled out a pencil and then a new spiral notebook. She opened it to the first page and carefully wrote the date and the time. She looked up at Mr. Z and said, "I'm going to keep a record of our meetings." About a minute later, Greg walked in. Maura looked at him and said, "You're late. It's not businesslike to be late." She turned and wrote something in a notebook. Greg made a face at the back of her head. Turning to Mr. Z, he said, "So, what should we do first?" Mr. Z said, "Well, first I need to know what your parents think about all this." Greg said, "Mine are fine with it. With talking to the school committee and everything, they're going to come to the meeting. At least my dad is for sure. And my mom's going to try to cancel another meeting she has for Thursday. But they both think it's fine, especially after I showed them the flyer about the book club." Moore nodded. My parents think it's okay too. Only my mom more than my dad. He thinks it's sort of crazy, but they both said to thank you for helping. And they're both coming to the meeting too." Mr. Z took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Now there was truly no way out. He felt trapped. He honestly wanted to help these kids, and he honestly saw nothing wrong with either their comic books or their wish to make them available to their friends. It even seemed okay to make a little money, but sometime soon he knew he would have to talk to the principal. Mr. Z had spent most of his life carefully avoiding disagreements and disputes, first in grade school and then right through high school, college, and graduate school. He had learned to keep away from controversy because any situation that might include yelling could easily lead to pushing, and pushing sometimes led to all sorts of unpleasantness, even BLOOD. But this current situation had conflict written all over it. He certainly didn't imagine that Mrs. Davenport was going to haul off and sock him in the nose or anything, but as he thought of facing her and explaining his involvement in the business, his hands began to sweat. Then Mr. Z had a good thought. "Another way out," he said. "Well, one thing I have to do as soon as possible is call the superintendent's office and ask if they have any room on the agenda for Thursday's meeting. We might need to wait a month. Maybe we're too late." "But maybe we're not," Maura said. "So I think we should go ahead and get ready anyway." Greg nodded. "Yeah, like we need a whole plan of what we say and who says what, because we really have to look like we know what we're doing, or I bet they won't even listen to us." "Then I think I should talk first," Maura said, "because I know exactly what we want to ask permission for." Greg snorted. "You? Why you? I know what we want. This whole thing was my idea, remember? I should talk first." "Your idea?" said Maura. "I was the one who saw the book club flyer. And when I showed it to you, you didn't even see the point until after I told you. So don't start acting like this is all about you." "Oh, right," Greg said, "because everybody knows that you're such a great—" Wham! Mr. Z slapped his right hand flat onto the desk. "Enough! I thought you two had gotten past this, and if you haven't, then just get up and leave, both of you." After a few seconds of silence, Greg said, "Sorry. If everyone wants Maura to talk first, that's fine with me." And Maura said, "No, it's okay. I don't have to talk first. That was stupid." Greg thought, yeah, really stupid. But he kept his eyes on Mr. Z's face because he knew that without the teacher's help, this idea was going nowhere. Glad to see the immediate change in attitude and pleased with himself for being so forceful, Mr. Z began the self-appointed chairperson of their little meeting. For the next 25 minutes, they had a lively, friendly exchange of ideas, as Maura took furious notes. And Mr. Z actually enjoyed himself. True, there was a dull ache in his right hand from whacking his desk, but the plan that started taking shape didn't seem crazy or dangerous or hopeless. In its own weird way, it made perfect sense. As the bell rang for homeroom, Maura believed that she might actually get the chance to have all the other kids at school read her stories and see her artwork. Mr. Z believed that the clear, almost mathematical logic of the proposal might actually convince the school committee that this was a good idea. And Greg believed that maybe, just maybe, Chunky Comics might actually make him a whole bunch of money. That is the end of Chapter 19.